There will be no quick answers as to whether Canada gets a 7th NHL franchise. Canadian billionaire Jim Balsillie, the co-CEO of BlackBerry maker Research in Motion, had hoped to get an audience at the NHL's Board of Governors meeting next week in New York to clear the air on this tentative purchase of the Nashville Predators and possible relocation to Hamilton. But it's not going to happen. Neither the relocation question nor the actual vote on the ownership transfer will be on the Board of Governors' agenda, and Balsillie will not be invited to the meeting.
Meanwhile, Hamilton City Council has approved an agreement that would allow Copps Coliseum to become the future home of the Predators. And even though it doesn't even have an NHL team yet, area residents are buying season's tickets. A ticket drive was launched this morning to show support for the team in Southern Ontario. Now, you can plunk down between $500 to $5,000 fully refundable dollars as a deposit on season's tickets in case an NHL team arrives. A steady stream of fans mistakenly arrived at the box office at Copps, only to be told to go online.
Still, lots of unanswered questions, so let's try to sort out some of them. We're joined by Nick Bontis from the DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University, and lawyer David Thompson is here in our studios. David, do you think Toronto and especially Buffalo could throw a monkey wrench into this deal by demanding outrageous sums for territorial rights, or would the Competition Bureau of this country come to the defense of Jim Balsillie?
Well, it's an interesting question, Mark. Our Competition Act is, of course, designed to prohibit and prevent anti-competitive business conduct in Canada. It's been around for a long time. Many of your viewers will know the similar legislation in the U.S., which most people call antitrust law, the Sherman Act. And it's interesting, and I'm sure Nick can speak to this, but what we have, of course, in the NHL is a club-run league. And interestingly, club-run leagues tend to dominate the sports place in North America. That's not the case in other areas of the world, and that has arisen, the present structure has arisen because of a legal ruling, or largely because of a legal ruling. Back in 1922, there was a competing baseball league called the Federal League, and the Federal League sued the National League and the American League, claiming that they had conspired to put it out of business, and the U.S. Supreme Court concluded at that time in 1922 that the baseball league was not subject to antitrust laws. So what happened, of course, is baseball developed its current structure as a club-run league, its contractual arrangements based on an assumption that it was not governed by antitrust laws, and other sports followed suit. It'd be interesting to see what the Competition Bureau does with this. Our laws in Canada have not been aggressively implemented from a competition standpoint, much more aggressive implementation in the U.S. through the Sherman Act. So
through all of that, are you suggesting then that that he could somehow get around it or not?
Well, it's difficult to say, Donna. As I said, the Competition Bureau, it's an independent law enforcement agency, and they can look at any complaint of alleged anti-competitive behavior. There's a specific section of the Act dealing with conspiracies in respect of professional sports, and the Act says that no one shall conspire to limit opportunities for participation. But frankly, on a practical level, I doubt very much that the Competition Bureau is going to take a look at this and come to Mr. Balsillie's aid.
Okay, let's bring Nick Bontis into the conversation. Nick, experts out there suggest that Balsillie paid a huge price, over $220 million for the Predators, maybe $100 million more than they were worth. Why would someone do that? Here's a guy, he's got a lot of money, but why would he overpay by $100 million a franchise that's losing money?
Well, first of all, this guy loves hockey, and passionate people do fanatic things, and this is one of those fanatic things. Overbidding by $100 million means that this market value, the traditional market value of the Nashville Predators, was about $130 million. He's offering $230 million. Basically, that's raising the ocean level for every other owner in NHL franchise. But let me point out something that I always tell my MBA students when I'm teaching in the classroom. The value of an asset is only real when someone bids for it. So at the end of the day, $130 million was a guess by Forbes magazine. Right. The value of Nashville Predators as of today, if this bid go through, is $230 million.
So wait a second. So in Nashville, it's not worth $230 million. In Hamilton, it's certainly worth $230 million, correct?
Absolutely, and yeah, I mean, I think we all know as Canadians in Southern Ontario, you know, we could probably support 4 or 5 even NHL hockey teams. So it's really about the Board of Governors kind of getting off their butts there and realizing that this is the best thing, I think, for NHL vitality in the future.
But now we've got to get back to this problem that we've heard about for many, many years, in that Toronto and Buffalo own what are known as territorial rights. David, tell me, can the Competition Bureau step in if, for example, Buffalo wanted to give a hard time? Ron Joyce, back in the early 90s, even suggested Buffalo was the problem. Buffalo was the main reason why Hamilton didn't get that expansion franchise and Ottawa did. So, again, does the Competition Bureau have enough teeth that they can step in and allow Jim Balsillie to move the team to Hamilton?
Certainly, arguably, and in theory, Mark, the Competition Act has sufficient teeth to assist here. There's multiple precedents. Most of them are in the U.S. The Milwaukee Braves moved to Atlanta. The L.A. Rams moved to St. Louis. The San Diego Clippers in the NBA. There are multiple instances of antitrust legislation being used in connection with proposed moves of franchises and whether they ought to be permitted or not. We have to keep in mind, of course, that geographic areas of exclusivity are nothing new. We seize upon them when it comes to wanting NHL hockey in Hamilton because we're in Hamilton and we're hockey fans and we'd love to see a team here. But of course, car dealerships and donut shops and pizza stores all operate under similar limitations with respect to geographic territoriality. And it's a matter of competing interests. It's a matter of balancing the competing interests of a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Buffalo Sabres to genuinely protect their economic interests as against the needs and wishes of the consumers who want a competitive environment and want hockey here. The question as to whether the Buffalo Sabres can upset a deal is a more difficult one because technically the Buffalo Sabres and their organization are governed under the Sherman Act and the antitrust legislation in the U.S. and not by our Competition Act. But certainly our Competition Bureau could assist here if they chose to step in and be aggressive and come to Mr. Balsillie's aid.
Nick, quickly, do you think that the city missed the boat by not having a big fanfare to sell these season's tickets instead of saying go online? I mean, people actually lined up to buy them and they couldn't even purchase them today.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think this is quite ridiculous. Talk about a chicken and the egg problem here. Buying tickets for a team that doesn't necessarily exist in a building that doesn't necessarily been built yet. I think the bottom line is he's using this as a strategy, as a tactic to say, hey, if this thing does move over here, we do have the meat and the capacity to handle it.
That's smart, though, isn't it?
I think it's smart, but at the same time, he's playing with fire here because the Board of Governors, let's face it, you know, the headquarters there is the U.S. This is an American-based organization, even though it's our particular sport. And, you know, I think they'd be more inclined to move to another different U.S. city as opposed to up here in Canada.
Oh, we don't want to hear that, Nick. Unfortunately, now we're out of time. We'd like to talk more with Nick Bontis and David Thompson, but we can't. Gentlemen, thanks for your interest today.
Thank you.